Well, as I record this, I am just 5 days out from race day, so well and truly into the taper. But the problem is I feel terrible. The past 4 or 5 weeks, the workouts have just felt bad. They've been feeling worse and worse. I feel flat and tired. So in this video, I want to go through how I'm hoping to turn that around in this taper. So everything I'm doing, tapering the running, the strength training, nutrition, carb loading, all of that good stuff, and probably crucially what not to do during a taper, because I think that in many ways is just as important as what to do. So why am I feeling so bad? It's actually got me really worried. Like I'm worried I've stuffed everything up. All the amazing progress I've made, I just feel like I've lost it all and I've jeopardized everything. Like I'm really wondering if I'm even going to break 3 hours now. A lot of you will be thinking, oh, that's just paranoia talking, but I don't know, it's been building for weeks and weeks, and I think one of the main reasons is a lack of sleep. For the past probably 6 weeks, I've really been enjoying doing these YouTube videos, but to do that, I've been getting up at 3 a.m. every morning to work on them in the hopes that it doesn't impact the family too much. And I failed at both of those things. Like it just takes me so long, but I need to stop doing that. I need to sleep properly because I've only been getting about 5 hours a night. And I think having done that for like 6 weeks now, that's really starting to catch up with me. The other reason for me feeling so bad at the moment is I think my diet. So I'm a teacher and I'm on school holidays now, which means my routine has been broken. And when that happens, I tend to lose the plot a little bit. And I've certainly lost the plot with my diet. Like I just feel really big and heavy and slow and just gross, but it's been weird. It's as if I can't control myself. I've just been making stupid decisions consistently. Like it hasn't just been once or twice. So I've put on weight. I don't actually know how much, but I know it's a fair bit. Like I can really feel it as I run. I'm actually too scared to jump on the scales. So the lack of sleep and the poor diet, I think has made me feel, at least, and I think actually be a lot worse than I was 5 or 6 weeks ago. So I'm hoping I can turn some of that around with this taper. So the way I've tried to plan mine is by keeping some guiding principles in mind to try and keep me on the straight and narrow and hopefully prevent me from doing anything stupid. So the first one is obviously we're trying to shed accumulated fatigue. That's a pretty obvious one. So the idea is that our fatigue goes down while we maintain fitness, because we don't want to stop completely. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They just think, oh, brilliant, I'm in taper mode, let's just do nothing. That's a really bad idea in my experience, because one, you suffer from detraining. So it's not a taper anymore. It actually becomes detraining and you lose fitness, but also you feel really flat. So the second guiding principle I've tried to keep in mind is to maintain neuromuscular sharpness. So that means keeping the right amount of muscle tension in the body. And instead of just doing nothing and feeling really flat, you've got spring, you've got pop, and your body's ready to put in a hard effort. And obviously we're wanting to maximize our glycogen stores. So that's the third principle I've tried to keep in mind. And that's pretty obvious. The carb load takes care of that. And the last one is just generally to do whatever we feel helps to arrive at the start line feeling physically and mentally fresh and ready to go. And I say do whatever we feel helps, because I reckon a lot of the stuff we do probably doesn't actually make any physiological, like real difference. But if it helps in our mind, then awesome, you go for it. So along with those guiding principles of what we're actually trying to achieve in a taper, I've also tried to bear in mind things not to do during this taper. So I reckon a big one is we've got to remind ourselves that we're not gaining fitness at this point. A lot of people get tempted to go out and do one last big session, one big hero interval session to try and squeeze that last little bit out. Or we'll start trying to second guess our training. Have I done enough? What if I just do this one? The truth of the matter is we probably have done enough. And if we haven't, there's nothing we can do about it now anyway. So for goodness sake, don't go out and do those one last monster sessions a week out from race day, because you're not going to gain any fitness and we're just going to be building fatigue when we actually want to be shedding it. So not second guessing the training is another one I've tried to remind myself that I've done the work, it was planned, I think it's enough, and just trust that. So when all the thoughts and doubts come into my head, like even now as I'm really not feeling great, I mustn't doubt it so much that I go out and do something stupid on the track. I've got to just trust the process. What's done is done. The only goal now is to freshen up and arrive ready to go. So a fair question is, how do we maintain that neuromuscular sharpness and achieve the optimal, or at least a good amount of muscle tension come race day? And there are several things we can do. So we can actually lower that muscle tension where necessary, because for a marathon, you don't actually want it too high. You don't want to feel like a sprinter and all bouncy and like ready to go in that way. You want it to be an appropriate level of tension for the distance we're running. So if you've got too much tension, things like easy running, slow running, running on soft surface, that's going to decrease our tension. But I reckon for me, where I am now, one of the things I'm trying to do is increase that tension to try and get a little bit of pop back. And there's lots of things we can do for that. Probably the most effective is to do sprints. Now, I'm not going to be doing those because it's too extreme for a marathon. I don't need that level of tension there. But we can do intervals, which are faster than what we normally do. So faster than marathon pace, kind of 10K pace, threshold, 5K pace. But the key is the intervals are going to be short, because remember, we're not wanting to add more fatigue. This is just to keep things firing, just to keep things moving. So short, fast intervals are certainly one of the things. We can do things like plyometrics and explosive strength work. And that's one of the ways that I am tapering my strength training. So obviously I'm reducing the volume, probably by between 50 and 70%. And I've moved away from a strength focus and more towards explosive power. So I've dropped completely things like deadlifts and squats, because those things, they're really taxing on the body. Like the central nervous system takes a big hit when we do those things. So no deadlifts, no squats. But instead I'm doing things like power cleans, med ball throws, kettlebell swings, hip thrusts, any short explosive movement. But the key is not adding fatigue. So they're short, like my sessions, I'm aiming for them to last about 20 to 30 minutes. So short sessions, high intensity with relatively light loads, so I can move through them quickly. So I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail as to what I'm doing with my strength training, because I realize that my strength training is probably very different from most marathon runners' strength training. I like it. I do a lot more than is necessary. But the guiding principles are to reduce volume, to have a shift towards more explosive power, to reduce fatigue, obviously, make sure there's no muscle soreness, and to try and keep the sessions between 20 and 30 minutes long. And in terms of frequency, I'll probably only do like 2, maybe 3 sessions this week. So really back it off to make sure that I'm not carrying any muscle soreness or fatigue going into race day. Another thing that I found really helps to keep feeling fresh and sharp during a taper is to keep up mobility and core work. Now, I do mobility work all the time anyway, and I use an app called Movement Vault, which I highly recommend. This has been a game changer for me, both in terms of injury prevention and improving mobility and, I guess, running form and just flow. So I find that this really helps, because with the Movement Vault app, it's not just stretching, it's getting into your end range stretch and then doing isometric holds. So it's a cross between mobility and conditioning and some other things. But I found it really helps you just feel good and stay fluid and stop from stiffening up as we reduce our load. So I highly recommend doing mobility and core work probably every day, and also highly recommend that Movement Vault app. I love it and I use it every single day. Okay, so this is a bit of an overview of how I'm tapering the running. So race week is here. Here's what I have planned, and this is the 4 weeks leading up to it. So I opted for a 2-week taper total, even though it looks like a little bit more. I consciously started tapering 2 weeks before. I've tried a 3-week taper before and hated it, so 2 weeks was what I opted for this time. And also, because I've been training Norwegian singles, I don't feel like I've had a huge amount of accumulated fatigue to shed. So remember, that was like one of the main reasons why we taper, to shed accumulated fatigue. And I didn't feel like I had a huge amount to shed in the first place, so I didn't think there was much point in having a 3-week taper. Maybe that was the wrong decision given the way I'm feeling now, but that's the decision I made, and we'll see. So the reason the volume drops on 3 weeks out is because I had a 10K race instead of the long run there. But this column here, RSS, that stands for running stress score. And that's an important one because it takes into account intensity as well as duration. So obviously the bigger the number, the higher the stress, distance in Ks and miles, the duration, and this last column, percentage decrease of the peak. So my peak week was here, 2 weeks before the race, where I did 115 Ks for 9 hours and 25 minutes. And so you can see, so that's when my taper officially started. And the next week, a little bit of a drop, 20%, so not massive, still maintained a fair bit of intensity. And then this week, I plan on dropping it a fair bit more. It's probably going to be more like 55%. I might adjust it a little bit. And it seems like a little bit more than it is because, of course, this is not including the race itself. So this is only 6 days leading into the race and doesn't include the race itself. So in terms of the actual training that I've done in these weeks, here's the last 3 weeks. Again, right now I'm recording this on Tuesday, so I've done this one and I've got these ones planned. So going back, this was my last full week. On the Wednesday, I had my biggest workout of the block. That was 5x4K at marathon pace with 2-minute rest in between. That was a great workout, felt really good then. And then the next workout, as it normally would be, 5x6.5 standard Norwegian singles workout. And then I had a progression run on the Sunday. Now that was a little bit less than usual. My peak long run was 3 hours long. This one was about 2 hours, I think, but a fair bit of intensity. So I think it ended up being around 32 Ks or something like that in distance. So yeah, just gradually getting quicker. And then the taper started officially. So I still had the 60-minute easy runs on the Monday and Tuesday. And then the Wednesday. So this is where I've been talking about maintaining muscle tension. So you'll see on these sessions leading into race day, each one's got some work at marathon pace. So I think that's really important to practice that pace to become more efficient at it. But then they've all got some quicker stuff. So this one's 3x at 10K pace. And actually it's probably a similar pace to these ones as well. So these shorter intervals, they're not about gaining fitness and they're quite short. So only 1 minute at LT2, kind of just below 10K pace or thereabouts. The idea is to increase my muscle tension. So that's what I'm trying to do there. So this is race week. And the Tuesday, which is today, I did 10 minutes of marathon pace, 3 minutes easy, and then 4x1 minute at LT2 with 2 minutes rest. So nothing strenuous, but certainly a bit of intensity there to, keep the body firing. And then on Thursday, which is my next one, same workout, just less. So instead of 20 minutes easy, we got 15, 6 minutes at marathon pace, and then 3x1 minute. And then the day before the race, this will be my shakeout, very light. So we've got 3 minutes at marathon pace, and then just 2x1 minute at LT2. So I'm hoping that these intervals here are gonna do enough to spring me back into life and inject a bit of pop in my legs again, so that come race day, hopefully I'll be firing and feeling good. So my easy runs, they're dropping obviously. On Monday, yesterday I did 45 minutes and we got 35, then 30. So gradually reducing that volume until race day. This long run here looks slightly different, and that's because I chopped up the marathon pace portion of the run into intervals because I was testing shoes. So that's why I've got 4 shorter intervals at marathon pace. Originally I had planned just to do 20 minutes straight at marathon pace, but split it up to do that shoe test. So looking at it in context, this is the last 3 months of my training, and I thought this would be good to look at. It just shows the context. So this white line here is CTL, or chronic training load. So you can see it's a really gradual increase over time. So this looks very nice, nothing drastic, nothing crazy. In this portion here, this is when I started Norwegian singles training, and even the long runs, they're not like hugely increased load from the regular workouts, but this is when I got more specific with the long runs, and so you can see some big jumps in the running stress score from those long runs. And then these down weeks here are either when I was testing or racing. So pretty happy with that build, very consistent, haven't missed a single day, and then is building right up until here, and then as we taper, we're going to see that line gradually drop, which is what we want. So yeah, I'm hoping that this is going to give me a great balance between shedding fatigue, feeling fresh, maintaining fitness, and hopefully getting a bit of pop and life back into the legs. In terms of my carb load, I'm actually not worried about this one at all. I've tested it plenty. I know it works really well. Everything sits well with my stomach, so I've got full confidence in this. I'm going to do it over 2 or maybe 3 days. So on the Thursday, I'm going to go for 8 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight. And then Friday, I'm going to do 10 grams. And then the day before, I'm going to do 12 grams. And it's pretty straightforward, nothing revolutionary. Lots of simple carbs, things like rice, pasta, white bread, honey, all that kind of stuff. But crucially, trying to almost eliminate fiber. So cutting right down on fruits and vegetables. I find particularly for me, I've got Crohn's disease. I just feel a lot better when I start reducing that fiber. And I'm also making it pretty low in fat just to keep those calories down, because we're having to eat so many carbs. I'm wanting to avoid a little bit of weight gain. It probably doesn't make any difference, but it makes me feel better anyway. So low fiber, low fat, high carb. I'm also using lots of carb drinks to help top up and spacing it out evenly throughout the day. But yeah, just making sure they're really simple carbs, easily digestible. And as I say, I haven't had an issue with any of this, so I've got full confidence of that going into it. For caffeine, my washout period is going to be 7 days before race. So this is like my 3rd day of no caffeine now. And I'm sure you're aware, like the idea is if you go cold turkey for a week beforehand, then the performance enhancing effects of caffeine are heightened on race day. So I've had no caffeine since Sunday, so that'll be 7 days out. Also with creatine, I've had a washout period for that. I'm doing 2 weeks, but 3 weeks is actually optimal, so I've read, but I only found that out 2 weeks before race day, so I didn't have enough time. So I'm doing 2 weeks of no creatine, and the idea behind that is that I'm hoping to lose some of the water weight that you gain when you're on creatine. That's the plan. But so I reckon if all goes well, I'll probably maintain the same weight, because I'll hopefully lose some from dropping off creatine, but then I'll probably gain a couple of kilos through the carb load. So I'm hoping that when all's said and done, it will be the same. Although I've been eating like an idiot, as I said, so I don't even want to think about what the scales are going to say now anyway. So one little tradition I've got now for all my carb loads and race day breakfast is this rice pudding that I make, which is very low in fat, very high in carbs. It's tasty, and I don't know, it's just become a part of my routine. I look forward to it, and I know like I only have this either during a carb load or on race day. And so for some weird reason, it just gets me in the zone. When I eat this food, it's like, okay, we're go time. Now, in terms of mental preparation, I feel that in many ways, this is one of my weakest areas. I am really hard on myself. And as I said, things haven't been going well the past 4 or 5 weeks. And I mean, to be honest, I'm feeling really flat and almost demotivated. Like it's such a shame. I was so excited about this race, and I still am, but I'm also really angry with myself. Like I just feel like I have stuffed it up through my diet, through this lack of sleep. I just feel like I've let it all go. And I know that's not true, but that's how I'm feeling at the moment. So I need to find a way of flipping that around, getting that diet under control, and really focusing on the task at hand and focus on expressing all this fitness that I've built. Because this has been a dream block for me. Like everything has gone so well. I haven't got properly sick once during the whole build. I haven't missed a single run for like 4 or 5 months. My fitness gain has been incredible up until recently. So I've got so much to be thankful for. But yeah, I want to deliver on race day, because it wasn't for nothing. Like I know all that stuff. Even if I have lost some fitness now, it's going to come back. But you know, when you work towards something like this, I want to express it on the day. I want that to be like the cherry on top. And especially because it is such a big barrier I'm going for, like sub 3 is a big deal. It would just be so nice if all this work paid off. But as I said, at the moment, I'm really doubtful as to whether I can even do that. I had a run this morning where marathon pace just felt too hard. So yeah, I'm worried. But mental game. I need to turn that around. I need to stop thinking negatively, stop thinking about things I can't control, and just concentrate on all the good things that have happened, and concentrate on no matter what happens, I'm going to go balls to the wall, and I'm going to empty the tank and I'm going to go to the darkest of dark places and almost knock myself unconscious through exertion and have a really great time doing it. So that mental game is going to be tough. And as I said, sleep is got to be a priority. I've got to stop getting up at 3 a.m. to work on videos and sleep properly. I have in the past done things like Epsom salt baths, which I found relaxed me before bed. But I don't want to do that too much because going back to before, what we were talking about with muscle tension, having warm baths actually reduces muscle tension. And at the moment, I'm wanting to increase it. So I don't want to overdo it with Epsom salt baths. I do a little bit of work with a massage gun, but not too much because, again, I don't want to relax those muscles too much. I want them ready. And I think I'm going to start reading a book, which I always find inspiring. I think it's called How Bad Do You Want It by Matt Fitzgerald. It's got some pretty crazy stories in there. So I might start reading that and try and just G myself up for no matter what happens, just getting ready to fight. But I don't have any mantras or any weird superstitions or anything. But I'd love to hear from you guys. I know that everyone got all kinds of things that work. As I said, we've often got things which probably don't help physically at all, but they make us feel better. So please share those. Share your experiences with the taper, all the weird things you do in the lead up to a race. I want to hear it. So the training is done. All that remains now is to go and execute on race day. And for all of you, I know many of you are working towards marathons. Good luck. And also well done just for getting to the start line. Like, I need to say that to myself as well, especially for all of you out there like me who is a parent working full time. It's not easy. It's not easy doing it in the first place, let alone staying injury free. So like, well done. And I think we need to celebrate that. We need to remember that on race day. But I know I'm not going to believe that. I'm so focused on getting this sub 3, but hopefully I can still enjoy it. So good luck to you all, and I will see you very soon.